Hi, it's Darnell at Wave Oven Recipes, and this is my 30-day review of the Oster Extra Large Digital Air Fry Oven. If you've not already seen it, please see the initial review. That's where I do all the test cooks, all the measurements, side by sides with other cookers. All of that stuff is in the initial review. Here, in the 30-day review, I just talk about my experiences with the cooker, my thoughts, impressions, do a little comparison with some other things. And that's what's done in this review here. So I have my notes here to try and make sure that I capture everything that I wanted to say to you about the cooker. And I'll say, generally speaking, it's good for the few functions that it has, but it does have far less functions than many other air fry ovens. And it's a very big cooker, it's very large, so you can fit a lot in it. So it has the size, it's able to do what it was set up to do. It's just limited compared to other cookers. And one thing that I did want to point out though is that it's not so good with smoke. If you have something that's going to create smoke, it's not going to hold it in very well at all. So that is something to keep in mind with this cooker, but it is a quiet cooker. It's very quiet, even when the fan's running, not very loud at all. And something that I did want to point out is the kind of safety thing. I mean, all of these like air fry ovens that have like the metal exterior, they all get pretty hot. Even ones with the plastic exterior can get hot on the outside. That's something I cover in the initial review of all cookers. There are tons of cookers on this channel if you haven't been on this channel before. But I cover, how they feel on the outside usually, especially on the newer reviews. Some of the ones that are years old I probably didn't. But with this cooker, of course, like parts of it are hot on the outside. But one thing I wanted to point out, because it was something that I was experiencing a lot when using it, is this door. Now the handle is going to stay cold. You can always touch the handle. But the door, with it being so big, often when you're opening and closing and touching around here, you're going to probably touch the door or hit the door unintentionally. So you're going to have times where you hit the door, you didn't mean it, but you're going to feel it. You're going to feel the heat. So it's just something to keep in mind there, to be careful when dealing with the door if you get this cooker or you have it, because you'll probably eventually encounter what I've encountered, that you got to be really careful, and when you're not, you'll feel it. Now, one thing that also about the door that's kind of nice though, it's kind of interesting. When you open the door, the counter doesn't stop. The counter doesn't count down. This cooker does not have any way to pause. Even if you hit the cancel button one time, it's not going to pause. It's going to end the cook. And if you open the door, it's not going to stop the timer. But if the fan's running on something like roast, when you open the door, the fan stops. So it's kind of a pseudo pause. It's not a full pause, because like the fan will stop so that it's not blowing stuff around on you, but the timer's going to keep going. So you are able to get in and manipulate things. It's just not going to save your time. So you just have to deal with that. Now the cooker has no light inside, but it's big enough, it's so big that even with like normal kitchen light, you usually can see inside pretty well because it's so big. Now as far as evenness, I think overall the evenness was fine. There was no need, I found in most cases, to spin. If things were a little darker in the back, it was very minimal difference. I really wasn't spinning things a lot. And the door doesn't have a lot of seal, but the design of it does help to keep things at a pretty even cook without having to spin things at all. So it works out pretty nice. And yeah, so that's all I wanted to cover on that point. Now I will say that this cooker, even though it has its preheat, you are able to skip it. I showed how to skip it in the initial review. You can just hit the start button, skip that preheat. But it's a hotter end cooker as far as cooking things. For a large cooker, it basically cooks things up on the hotter end of things than some other cookers. There's some cookers that cook things and it seems like it takes a little longer, they're a little cooler, and then there's some that you cook things and you're able to cook things faster. This is one, it does have its preheat, but for cookers that have a preheat, in my experience, this one is able to finish things off a little faster than some others. So that's the deal there. Now, something that I don't like about the cooker, I do want to point out, is that when you're using the toast function, there's no countdown. So like you do shade 5 on toast, it just shows a 5 the whole cook, and it doesn't tell you how long it's counting down. That's a bit annoying, but it's something that if you have the cooker for a while, you can get used to. So it's just something to keep in mind. It does have a clock, so it is able to tell you what time it is, and that's a nice feature. It's not a big obtrusive clock that's really bright or anything. It's kind of a minimalist type of clock, but visible from across the room if you got decent eyesight. Now, let's see. The end of a cook, I wanted to mention, it beeps a lot. It does a lot of beeping at the end, and it's pretty loud. Usually, I'll say when it cooks about the end, you probably want to be nearby so you can just hit the cancel button to stop it from beeping so much, because it, like I said, it's pretty loud and repetitive. So it's a bit more, I guess, noticeable than some other cookers when a cook ends. Now, the user interface on this cooker is very easy to use. I found it was very intuitive, pretty simple to pick up. Now, the cooker has no memory, but I will say that this cooker usually has a low price point. Presently, I think it's probably a lot of people are able to get it at Costco at a pretty decent price. I'm not saying price because prices change. You'll have to look it up. But it's usually at a lower price point. So not having memory is not such a major loss because you're getting a deal as far as price. Now I'm going to talk about the functions that I used on the cooker and my experiences with those. The toast function works well. As I mentioned, you don't get to know how long your stuff's cooking though. Air fry works fine, and no issues with air fry, unless you're doing something that makes a lot of smoke. Then you might have issues. So try and be careful of that. Now the bake function works very well, and as I said, you probably won't need to spin things around. I didn't use broil. The roast function works well. No issues with roasting. I didn't use the warm or the pizza functions either. So those are my experiences. And as far as cleaning the cooker, I want to show you the inside. It's pretty easy, hassle-free. I talk about how to clean it in the initial review. You see inside there, there's nothing sticking on there. The pan, the big pan's got a little bit of stuff that sticks. I mean, you can soak it if you want. I don't go to any extra efforts to try and get a stain off. I don't mind. So that's where I'm at with that. The air fry basket, nothing stuck to that, so that's cool. So you shouldn't have too many issues at all with cleaning. Now I want to talk about comparisons with other cookers, and I will say I'm just comparing with a few. If I don't mention one that you have particular interest in, you'll have to look around the channel, find what you like, determine from the videos, the reviews, and all that are here. There's literally hundreds, over 700 videos, nearly 800 videos here on this channel. You'll find something. Just pick something that you see you like and works out well for what you need. But this cooker versus the Oster French door air fry oven, which is the large version of this with French doors. Basically, the French door has more functions, so I prefer it because it has a lot more functions and features. And the French door model has, well, this model has less a need to spin things. With the French door model, I did see that I needed to spin things a little more often when I was baking. Although, even with non-French door cookers, there are plenty that you have to spin with. But my experiences with this versus its French door counterpart, I did have to spin more with the French door than I did with this. So this was able to basically hold the heat a bit more even. And let's see, what else did I have here? Yeah, the ability to pause with the French door was another reason that I prefer the French door. More functions, able to pause. They put a bit more into that. The French door one usually costs a little more though, but you get a little more for that. Now in this cooker, this Oster versus the Ninja Foodie XL Pro Air Fry Oven, the Ninja has way more features. It's got the auto pause door that fully auto pauses the fan and the timer. So a lot more feature rich cooker there, even though you can't hold as much on a single rack level. It's got 4, so you are able to, like, with certain things, you know, hold more on multiple racks. So basically the Ninja Foodie XL Pro Air Fry Oven wins because even though I kind of like being able to just put a lot on one rack, it's got a lot more features than this one, so that's the deal there. But this cooker versus my present champ, the Gourmet French Door XL Digital Air Fry Oven, which is also very large, basically there's no contest really. The Gourmet is still my champ and better than this in my opinion. And so the Gourmet has a lot more functions. It handles smoke better. You can pause by pushing the button to pause. And I know how long it takes for my toast to cook. Less loud beeps after cooks, more rack levels. I mean, I probably could go on, but the Gourmet wins pretty easy for me. There's no question there. So that basically wraps up my thoughts about the cooker. But I will say, if you get it at a good sale, you know, like Costco, they got a real good sale on it, you know, you probably will be decently pleased with it. Just be careful of the door. Now, I do want to say that nothing in this video is sponsored. Nobody gave me this cooker. I paid for it with my own money. And that's how I like to roll. And so in the video description, there are lots of ways to help the channel, such as my cookbook, merch, memberships, donations, referral, links to things like Amazon link to buy things, pay the same price, help the channel, there's memberships and all that. And so there are lots of ways to help the channel in the video description. And so with all of that said, if you did like the video, please give it a thumbs up, share the video with a friend, leave your comments, subscribe, hit that notification icon, and good eating.